the big story that seems to be bubbling away this afternoon surrounds the Tassie Devils and the sounds that seem to be emanating out of the Apple Isle is that they will announce Ken Hinkley as their senior coach in the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, there had been much speculation that it was going to be Nathan Buckley, John Longmire, or Ken Hinkley. The reporting goes today that Ken Hinkley has flown down to Tasmania this afternoon to once again present to the board in Hobart and could be named as the senior coach of the Tassie Devils as soon as tomorrow. Now, Rich, I want to get your thoughts first and foremost on this. As the resident Tassie expert, I think it's fair to say, go back a few months, Nathan Buckley was the clear-cut favourite, even late last year after he missed out on the job at Melbourne. Now it seems as though he's been surpassed again.
I think he was the clear-cut favourite before the real process really started. So you wouldn't want to say that Bucks, was favourite and suddenly he's been overtaken. I think the process is now unfolded and everyone's been interviewed. But I don't think you could have gone wrong with any of those three, really. I mean, they're all very successful. John Longmire, premiership coach. Bucks could have won a premiership if not for Dom Sheed. Ken Hinkley always had Port Adelaide in finals and prelim finals on a number of occasions. So all really good, experienced candidates. It felt to me that I didn't hear as much from John Longmire talking about. You knew that Hinkley was really keen. We obviously knew that Buckley was really keen. But if that is the case that they've chosen Ken, I think he'll be a great appointment. Experience, I think you needed that. I think you need someone who's going to identify with the Tasmanian people. And I think that's Kenny Hinkley to me. He's a country Victorian guy. I think he'll really relate to being in Tasmania and Tasmanian people, probably a little bit more laid back like it would be in Colac where he's from. So I think he's a really good appointment in that regard. And I think for young players, he never lost the players in Port Adelaide. You speak to any of the young players like Zach Butters, he's like a father figure. So a young list, I think he's going to be really good for those young players. And, to identify a club, a real footy club, which it will be, I think he's going to be a really good appointment if it turns out to be the case. Bucks would be as well, but if the reporting is right, I don't think you can go wrong with Ken Hinkley.
He'd be disappointed, Bucks.
Of course
that's
he would
the case, because he's kind of done like James Hird has with Essendon, right? Been very, very public about his interest in that job, his conversations
for a long time. For 18 months,
for an extended
probably.
Period of time, yeah.
So he would be really disappointed.
And then that begs the question, well, what's next for Nathan Buckley? Because obviously he's an assistant coach at Geelong. He hasn't really been in the conversation about Essendon or Carlton.
I don't think it says that anything about Nathan Buckley, though.
I mean, what's next? I don't mean about him as a coach.
Because these are all high-calibre candidates. It's not saying that Nathan Buckley isn't a great candidate, because he is. But obviously, when you've got three guys that have been...
But it's saying he's not the best candidate.
Yeah, it is.
But being brutal.
For that job.
Yeah, the reality is he wasn't the best candidate.
Maybe they've identified that for that job they thought Ken was the right one. And I'm sure that when they announce it, if this is the case, then they'll explain their reasons why.
Would Geelong look at a form of succession plan to keep Nathan Buckley down there to follow Chris Scott?
Oh, they might. It makes a bit of sense. Chris has been there for a long time now, so sometimes the voice starts to wane. It's probably up to Chris to lose that job or not want the job. Buckley, Essendon, Carlton, does he feel... Look, I think the Tassie job would be a ripper job, because the pressure's not totally there in the first 2 to 3 years, you wouldn't think.
You're building a club.
It's just gelling a group.
Building a culture.
Working with Brendan Gale.
Yeah,
I think he's probably had this more development role. In 12 years at Port, he's played 7 final series, preliminary final, never won a premiership. So the bloke who won a premiership as a coach misses out on that job too.
No, so, but this is what I'm saying. No, John Longmire didn't sound to me that he was as fully in as maybe Ken Hinkley and Buckley were.
Well, that's up to them to make that decision. But so
I didn't hear him talking about it as much.
Well,
as
if
the
you
other
reckon
two.
Buckley or Hinkley both never won premierships as coach, and they may be 1 and 2 if you're saying that, well, it just shows you don't have to win a premiership to be the person who wanted to be wanted as such. So I reckon it's a great... I think it's good. He's going to get plenty... I think you nearly got to give him at least 4 to 5 years, and which is a great setup for any person who wants to be a career coach and a pretty good future, isn't it? Because you'd be on a good wicket. But it's going to take time, and now he'll surround himself with people who he probably trusts.
So should Carlton and or Essendon be reaching out to Nathan Buckley
no doubt.
and having a chat to him?
No doubt. And hopefully they have.
Process.
If they haven't done it by this time, it's ridiculous. Other unless Bucks just said they have, and Bucks just said, no, I don't want to go there.
Well, that's what I mean. He's been so clear about what his preference has been. Is that off-putting to a football club when you're trying to hire someone that you know someone's eyes have been on another job? And now I'll talk to you because I'm not going to get back
here. I don't think so. Not once someone else has been appointed and you haven't appointed yours. If there's another candidate suddenly bobs up like Nathan Buckley, I'm sure Graham Wright would jump on the phone.
Be a better fit for Carlton than Essendon?
He's already said he doesn't want to go for Essendon, Nathan Buckley. He's on record. I don't know if he said that about Carlton. Has he been directly asked? I can't say because I'm not 100% sure. But if he now looked at it and went, I still want to coach and Carlton's there, then why wouldn't you interview him if you were Graham?
Do you remember when Nathan Buckley came out and said, I want to do the Tasmanian job, and people, they knew that he had talked and whatever? Do you think that sort of was seen by those, knowing that they still, if they wanted Buckley, they'd go there. But was it like that he was trying to put him in a position to make a decision at that stage for Nathan Buckley? Because it was pretty strong to come out and say,
it was a real public sort of campaign.
It was.
Yeah.
So now, was Kenny Hinkley at that stage, when he did come out and say publicly Bucks, was Kenny Hinkley one of them who had already been spoken to, or they hadn't spoken at that stage? So, it just, did it work for Bucks in the long run about getting the job or not? Although Hinkley, we're saying, is the best candidate now.
Well, we've had this conversation before that if you want a job, you don't get put off by somebody else saying they want that job too.
No,
you just go and do it. So he's obviously just gone about it in a different way. And if this ends up being the case, well, they just thought he's a better fit for the job.
133 693. Keen for you to weigh in, and Carlton fans, Essendon fans, would you like to see Nathan Buckley take the reins at your respective clubs next year? Also want to talk about comments made by Dave Matthews on 3AW yesterday. Now, Dave is the outgoing CEO of Greater Western Sydney. He made these comments yesterday afternoon on 3AW Football.
Look, I think Tasmania looms large just because of the sheer offers that you hear that they are going to make. And look, to be honest, my view is they need to make those. I don't think it's a super attractive proposition to go and play at Tasmania. I mean, my own view is it's a nice place to visit. I don't think it's an unbelievable place to have a career and live. And I think that, some of the hold-ups in relation to the infrastructure, I know Brendan Gale probably wouldn't like me saying this, but we're in a competition. I mean, by the time they get a stadium in place, it's probably 3 years into their tenure, and by that stage, a player like Tom Green's probably 31, 32.
133 693. I want to throw it to you, Dave Matthews, on Tasmania. Not an unbelievable place to live or work. 133 693.
He said too.
Or
work
play.
or play, yeah.
No, that is embarrassing.
That
is
the
dumbest.
Long run. Let's go.
For a bloke who's been an administrator for a long time, he's a bit of a shock jock administrator at times, Dave. He just wants to get out there. I don't know
wrong?
what's he doing. No, he's not right. He's not right. He's wrong.
But you don't get to choose where you play.
No, exactly. And if I'm going to play football and I get the offer of $2 million, if it's Nick Dacos and they offer you $2 million, it's not a massive hard decision after being a premiership player where you played to go down there. What the lifestyle offers you is what you would do to make sure that your career survives. I don't care where I play. I'll play at the North Pole if they want me to, if I can still play football, the game that I love, and then I'll get well remunerated for it and just hopefully build something, a team that can be so successful. I don't get that. That is a...
I think Dave's still got his...
Smart.
I think Dave's probably still got his Giants hat on there.
Well, he might have.
Even though he's just left. And the fact is, not everyone wants to live in a big city either. There's plenty of country kids that would love to go and play in Hobart or wherever else they can. The other thing
who wants to live in the west of Sydney? Well, at times, some people might want to live in the west of Sydney.
There's a lot of people that don't want to live in the big city, Melbourne or Sydney, and that's why Geelong's a prospect. Now, I know they're only an hour's drive from Melbourne, but Hobart's only an hour's flight. They want to live down on the surf coast. There's plenty of people that would love to live in Tassie, so that's a bit of a silly comment from Dave. And there are some that wouldn't want to live there, but there's plenty that wouldn't want to live in Melbourne either. But more to my point here is, if you get the opportunity to be a professional sportsman, I think we've got to get past the fact that you don't want to go and play in Adelaide, or you don't want to go and play in Perth, or you don't want to go and play in Hobart. That's nonsense. In this context of an AFL career now, where you're earning on average, what is it now? It's probably up to over $400,000-$500,000.
Isn't it?
This is a really professional competition now. Your career is very short. You know, the average career is only about 4 years. So you need to make the most of it. So if you get the opportunity, you should want to go anywhere to play to be a professional sportsman.
Is the problem more so, though, Rich, I'm playing a bit of devil's advocate here, but is the problem more so the retention of players? So young kids, 18, 19, they get this opportunity at AFL level, fantastic, I'll go wherever it is. But they go down to Tasmania, they build their profile, they build their ability. All of a sudden, the other 18 clubs come for them. Is it going to be that retention where it becomes a problem?
But that's any
retention's a problem anywhere. There's always a go-home factor if you're an interstate player, whether you're from Perth or Sydney or Melbourne. And that'll be a factor in Hobart, sure. So what do you got to do? You've got to make it a successful club as quickly as possible, be competitive. Players don't want to leave competitive teams if you think you can be successful. You're not going to leave a team that's in contention. How often does that happen? Not very often.
But it's going to take a while for Tassie to contend.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
It will.
No, but you've got to become competitive quicker than the Suns and the Giants did, and that's definitely something that they're working on straight away.
Like Zach Butters wants to come back to Melbourne. He's done his job at Port. I would have liked to have played premiership wise, but never. But he wants to come back to Melbourne. It happens all the time. I just don't get it. I thought that was pretty.
I think we've got
not a smart comment.
If
really,
you look around the world and other sporting competitions, you go anywhere to play. You're a pro sportsman,
Mate.
and if you look in America, yeah, of course, a lot of people might want to live in Los Angeles or New York or Miami, but there's plenty of teams in Green Bay and the Minneapolis and cities that aren't as desirable probably to live in for some people.
So
but you go and play there because you're a pro sportsman.
Players go and play there, but they also then have that income such that they can move out during the summer and live somewhere else. They don't have to live in Green Bay.
But we're not earning 50 grand anymore.
No.
They're earning good money.
Yeah, I don't
now.
know why you'd complain if you're
if you're earning 500 grand and you've got to go to Hobart to play pro sport. I think you're going to do it. I think we're moving past that, surely.
Once I get on the plane, it's an hour from Melbourne to Hobart, where it's an hour to get down the Geelong Freeway sometimes. A lot of times.
So you're saying it's the same distance to get to Geelong?
What is it?
48-minute flight this morning from Launceston
there you
to
go.
Melbourne.
I don't know if you can compare going to Geelong as going to Hobart.
Why not?
Well, because it's a 1 hour drive as opposed to
it's a 1 hour flight.
But I think what he's saying is...
you got to check in,
it's
you got to
not, it's not that big a deal, Shane.
No, I
it's not like
but
going to Darwin where you're 4 hours on a flight, which is a bit harder than 1 hour.
But I think it's a discussion.
The other thing is, Shane...
You don't think it is a discussion?
You're not moving for life.
But we had the discussion.
We had
the discussion around Gold Coast and we had the discussion around Western Sydney.
You're going to live down there, mate. You're going to live down there, so the flight doesn't come in. But what we're saying, it's not a massive issue.
You're going down there to play professional sport and your career is short.
No, I agree. But there has been criticism and continues to be, do people want to live in the Western Sydney? Do they want to live...
They don't live in the Western Sydney.
No, the Gold Coast is a selling point as a place to live.
But I mean, they have trouble retaining players as well, the Gold Coast Suns. So I think that maybe you can disagree with how Dave Matthews expressed it, but I think there is a discussion of does Tasmania have more difficulty ultimately with retention?
And what I'm saying is, I think as an industry, we have to go past this because the money is so high now. You've got an opportunity to play pro sport for $500,000 more, up to $1 million, $1.5 million. If it means that you've got to move interstate to play, I don't even think that should be a factor anymore.
And Laurie, you talk about the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast is the most transient population in Australia. Not just sports people. So, get over.
I think the kids coming through now. I think the fact that they're going to be
what a great
playing
opportunity.
Professional sports. I reckon they're pretty happy to go anywhere to be a professional sportsman.